What's your greatest hope for the next 10 years?
That we will create a world in which the kid I had just produced 10 years ago won't have to go off and fight foreign wars, will have clean air and water to breathe, and can get a college education while leaving his parents a little money for retirement.
My biggest hope is a ideological realignment of the country, that Obama is the beginning, the way FDR was the beginning of something that lasted for a generation.
Well, I'm writing a book now about conservatism, so that's where I'm very focused, is on restoring and revitalizing conservatism. So one of my hopes is that that conservatism finds a way to kind of move on from the, I would say, negative trends of populism, demagoguery, dumbing down on the right, and move toward a more cosmopolitan, inclusive form of conservatism.
I think that I would hope that we focus more on things that matter in politics and not personalities and grievances and individual grievances and imagined grievances.
I'm really hopeful that we can move past maybe some of the debates that characterized the end of the Bush administration. I think that especially in my little corner of the world, my little corner of the blogosphere, that things are really sort of dominated by how everything started back in 2002 and 2003, and that's bad really on both sides.
I think the thing that I would like the most is for people to step back from the culture war a little bit and stop bashing at each other so much with such hatred.
No, I guess this is not a super original answer, but there's obviously some substantial global environmental problems, climate change and the like, and we have seen a meaningful amount of international cooperation on trying to solve them, but not the amount that is needed. And I think that, it's important to sort of see more of that, both because that particular issue is very important, but also because there's an array of other kind of issues related to disease epidemics and other kinds of things where we're going to need, international governance of the kind that the world has not had. And I think that carbon dioxide emissions are sort of the issue of that nature that has ripened, and that there are real conferences about, and things are happening, and there's an understanding that something has to be done, but it's objectively hard. And I hope that we see more progress on that, and that it lays the foundation for more of what we're going to need. It's in some ways like a small planet, and we have to coexist.
I'd like to see the tide turn against climate change. I would also like to see, by the way, if I would add one more thing, I do want to see some kind of progress in the status and problems facing African Americans in America. I think that is a massive problem and indictment.
I would really like to see the attraction of the ordinary person to this radical brand of Islam countered in some way. I'd like to see a different narrative propounded that actually had a culture-wide effect in the way that America learned to stop smoking so much.
Over the next 10 years, I think it's quite possible that in the United States, which is the key for creating world peace, there might emerge a really powerful anti-war coalition consisting of traditional peaceniks, lefty types, but also including conservatives, especially fiscal conservatives, who just realize that there are gross inefficiencies in our defense budget.
Well, I hope that my children remain happy and healthy, and I hope that people that print journalism or even print journalism online actually still exists in a decade, and that we're all not speaking in emoji hieroglyphics.
I'd like to see an acceleration of growth in the developed countries. I'd like to see a birth spike. I think we would be a safer and more secure planet if we had a birth drop in the poor countries and a birth spike in the rich countries. That would make such migration as is going to happen a lot easier for everybody to cope with. I think we have to stop burning so much fossil fuel. That's really important. And we have to do it sooner than I would have thought in 2005 we have to do. We have to also figure out how to pay. The most wonderful thing that has happened over the past decade is our ever-increasing progress at extending the length of life for people in the developed world. But we have to figure out how we're going to pay for that in a way that doesn't crush the life chances of the people who are now young.
I would like to see the social safety net. We have the Affordable Care Act and the extension of health insurance to millions who wouldn't otherwise have had it. But there's so much more that we can and should do in the areas of education and housing and support for the poor and so on, and provision of people with opportunities to realize their, I would say, God-given potential, even though, as you know, I don't believe in God.
This is probably a fantasy, but I keep thinking back to when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president and what he did with the New Deal and how he was unwilling to compromise on the important issues and how he would tell his enemies that I welcome your scorn, because he's basically saying that shows that I'm in the right. And I just hope that sometime between now and the next 50 years we get a president like that.
Biggest hope? I don't really have a collection of hopes that I could put in order of bigness, so I'm just not that kind of person.